Welcome to A.U.M. Ask Us Marketing. I'm Callie Fedesinko of Callie Collective, a data-driven resource for advisors who are looking to do digital marketing. And hey, if you're looking for people to connect with, access to a network and resources, then look no further than the FPA, also known as the Financial Planning Association. Just scan that QR code and you can learn more. Today, we're talking about how to create atomic content. What is it? Atomic content? Ooh, tongue twister. What is it? We'll find out together. So, welcome with me, Matt Halloran, who is one of the founders of Proudmouth, who provides podcast assistance and more, which I think we're about to learn a little bit more about the and more today. So, welcome him with me. Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. My voice is 90% back, so that's good.
You definitely have a rasp to your voice. So
yeah, I do. Much better than it was. Okay, so atomic content. Mm-hmm. What the heck is that? Are we like blowing things up?
Yeah, absolutely. We're blowing things up. So I think you said it at the top. I mean, it's podcasting and so much more. Basically, what we're trying to do is become more of a content machine than just being in podcasting. And it all started really when our clients said, well, hey, can you do something here or here or here? And then, as you probably have heard, YouTube is now the #1 podcast player in the world. It just beat out Spotify. So, of course, we had to be there too. So the idea of atomic content is very, very simple. You take a long form piece of content, video, webinar, seminar, blog, podcast, and then you learn how to cut it up into a whole bunch of other pieces and then reuse it, which is the most important piece. Advisors, man, all they do is they think they have to have fresh new stuff all the time. Yeah. That's not what marketing is.
Yeah. So the pieces that you're cutting up and reusing, well, the reusing part, does it look different or is it literally just the same thing?
Well, I mean, it can entirely be the same thing. I mean, you can make a couple of tweaks to it if you are concerned the algorithm's not going to remember that you reposted it 6 months later. But part of the method is finding opportunities to reuse the content specifically. And so we've done this. In fact, it's hysterical, Callie. Jessica, who produces the Top Advice Marketing podcast, said, hey, you know what? Matt, what was your favorite episode? And she said, Kirk, what is your favorite episode? And so we both chimed in and said what our favorite episode was. And she's like, we're going to just replay that. And we have like 500 episodes of the show. One of them was like episode really early 400s.
Yeah.
And she's like, Matt, just do a new intro. Did a new intro. It was one of our most listened to episodes.
Interesting. Did you say, because I listen to Hidden Brain, that's one of my favorite podcasts, and he reuses some of his, but he always says like, oh, we're revisiting blah, blah, blah. That's right. Did you do something like that or just complete intro and fresh?
I didn't do the blah, 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 but yes, that's, but yes, that's exactly what it is. Hey, look, you know what? This is something that I get asked all the time, whether I'm at conferences or on sales meetings. And we just thought it would be great to redo it. And Jessica just posted in the chat, repeat the gold. That's correct. That's part of our atomic content method. So.
Oh, okay. Tell me about that. But, I do want to touch on, you said, the algorithm won't remember what you posted in 6 months. And you and I have talked before, like people aren't going to remember it either because it's less than 3% on LinkedIn even see your content.
It just hurts my soul because we work so damn hard for that 3%. No, we can't. I mean, my God, we really do. Listen, they're not going to remember what you posted a week ago, let alone 6 months. So now I'm not saying to, lather, rinse, and repeat that frequently, which is the 5th step of the atomic content method. But you really can use the content over and over again. In fact, with Jessica, we sat down with our new marketing manager and Kirk and I, and we really looked at all of the stuff that we've created over the last, since 2017. To be brutally honest, we wouldn't need to ever create anything again. Now we like to because we're weird like that, and you have fresh new ideas, like you
Right?
do, right? But our messaging is still pretty much the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, as Jessica says here, I'm going to put it up. Repeat the gold. And you've mentioned steps a few times. What are
Mhm.
these steps? Or
So
is
the
that like, oh, we can't talk about it
Oh,
because
that's no, I'm giving you everything. So it's find the gold, or I'm sorry,
okay.
create the gold. So your overall idea is to create some long form piece of content. The second one is to find the gold, right?
Mhm.
The third one is basically atomize the gold. The fourth one is find more opportunities to interact with the gold, because interaction, this is the fourth step. This is where most people fall down. Everybody is like screaming out into
Mm,
the internet,
yeah.
hoping that people are going to listen, but you actually have to show the internet you're listening to.
Mm,
So that's why step 4 is so important, because so I posted this great piece, and I'm going to give you an example here in just a minute, but
yeah.
I posted this great piece of content, and then somebody likes, shares, or comments on it. I have to do the same thing.
Mm,
You're really good at this. You just go ahead, right?
mhm,
Say, hey, Kelly, thank you so much for liking the post. And
right.
then the other thing that you have to do, and nobody ever does this because they're afraid of compliance, which is a whole bunch of hooey,
Sure.
they need to be interacting with other people's posts. So the whole
Mhm.
part of the atomic content method is much more of a complete marketing system than it is just, atomizing your content.
Which okay, I'm glad you said atomizing because I was like atomic, a atomicize. I was like, now I get it. You mean like breaking it
Yes,
down into
breaking it down.
atoms.
Yeah, yeah, that's the goal. I did not come up with that. That was either Jessica or Kirk. They were really freaking smart with that. So,
Very
uh,
clever.
yeah,
I appreciate it.
yeah,
Okay, so gold finds no, create the gold.
yeah. Create the gold.
How do you create gold?
So this is another thing that you and I deal with all the time.
Yeah.
It's not hard to find gold. You're creating gold all the time. In fact, one of my
Mhm.
favoriteest things in the entire world to tell, advisors specifically, is you get out of a client meeting, something great
Mm,
happened, you
mhm.
grab your damn phone and you say, I just got out of a client meeting,
Yeah.
right? So that piece of gold. So let's say it's about um, a life changing educational savings account that the grandparents are so excited to have set up for their grandchildren. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's how you use the atomic content method with that. First off, you take the video and you post it wherever you're allowed to: LinkedIn, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you want, right? Twitter, X, whatever. And then you transcribe that
Mhm.
and you turn it into text based, zero click
Yeah.
content,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then here's where things get fun, is this whole idea of the rinse, lather, and repeat component. Lather,
Mhm.
rinse, and repeat. Sorry, I always get that wrong. I don't have hair. I don't really pay attention to that. But the greatest part is so when can you repost that? The
Mhm.
start of the school year, around the holidays, Grandparents' Day, right?
Mm.
I mean, that's the sort of stuff that
Right.
you can get so much life out of your content, Kelly. Instead, it's like people just put it out there once, like, nobody's listening to my stuff. Well, no, they're not listening to your stuff, man,
Yeah.
because you're not showing the internet you're listening. But
Mhm.
that's where you can do it. And the other thing is it's really simple. And you and I are huge fans of Canva, but in
Mhm.
Canva, you can click a couple of buttons in the Pro and it'll
Mhm.
change the aspect ratios. And now with Canva's AI, it will even help you create other posts based off of the
Mm.
flip and post. Not
Mhm.
great, but it gets you at
Yeah.
least some ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Create gold. Find gold. Was that the second step?
Right. So in the gold itself, you want to find the nugget of the gold, yeah, the little itty bitty piece. So in that
Okay.
situation, it would be the gold would be grandparents over the moon about helping their grandkids, right? So
Mm.
let's just say that. So that's
Mhm.
going to be, or maybe even if you can, even though that you can attribute it differently, so you don't have to worry about compliance. Client says, or I'm paraphrasing. By the way, that works very well with compliance because you're not using a direct quote
Yeah,
from
sure.
one of my clients said that they were really happy they could set up an ESA for their grandkids. I mean, that's compliant as compliant can get.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, that's a chunk of gold,
Yeah.
because again, when you find that gold, then you can have pictures of grandkids, and then that becomes an Instagram post. Or you can go ahead and use some B-roll, which is a secondary video footage,
Mhm.
and be able to create another image. You can take
Mhm.
that statement specifically, Callie, put it into Chat GPT
Mm,
and say, write me 5 Instagram posts based off of this, and here's my target market, hit enter, and it'll freaking do it for you.
yeah, right.
That's how you go ahead, and after you create the gold, you find the gold, and then you basically are just making more gold out of the gold.
Mm, I see. Okay. A couple of things I want to go back to. You mentioned at the beginning, YouTube is now the number one podcast
Yeah.
platform. Um, do people who are publishing on YouTube, have you found a difference? Do you need to have video? That's what I'm trying to get out. Or can you just have the audio and a picture?
You can have audio in the picture. We've done that for years, and we've had clients who've really just like that. So that
Mhm,
doesn't play as well. The
mhm.
thing is most people aren't watching the video the whole
Mm,
time, but they want to if they want to.
yeah.
The real power of YouTube for our clients is YouTube Shorts. I mean, they're getting 10 to
Mhm.
20 times the interaction with their YouTube Shorts than they are with their long form content.
Yes, I have seen that, uh, for our clients as well. Um, okay, the other thing that you mentioned was transcripts. All
Mm.
right, you've got this podcast or video. What method do you recommend that people get the transcript?
Descript.
Okay.
It's unbelievably inexpensive and wildly accurate. We've found since we've done so many of these that it's the most accurate thing that we've been able to find, and we've probably
Mm,
tried 5 or 6 different companies over the last whatever it's been now 8 years, 7 years, eight
yeah,
years, and
yeah.
so it's
And
it's
they're
just really
I feel like
easy.
they're newer, or at least I started hearing about them a
Mhm.
lot in the last year. I
Yeah,
don't know if they were around before then or not.
yeah. No, we've been using Descript for 3 years probably,
Okay.
and we're
Alright.
grinding out over 100 episodes a month.
Mm,
And so it's a very productive, very clean, very accurate tool.
yeah. Okay, now back to the gold. As you were talking about that, I was like, "Oh, that falls in line a lot with, like, what we do. We pull up the metrics every quarter, and we're looking at see,
Mhm.
okay, what things were people liking the most or commenting the most? What got the most reach?" Because that's another way that it can help you pick out those
Yeah.
nuggets out of the gold.
Mhm.
What are some of the other steps? I've got a bad memory, Matt, so
Oh, that's okay. Well, so one of the things that I really think a lot of people don't pay attention to, and Jessica and I just did a webinar last week on this.
yeah.
Um, so she did a live Google search trying to suss out good questions or really what the world is looking for on a specific topic. And what
Mm,
we had just used buying a second home or in real estate.
yeah.
The greatest thing about Google or whatever
Mm,
platform you use is it will tell you what are the most searched questions based off of your query, right?
mm,
So
mhm,
if you have created something, about let's say the
mhm,
IRA, or I'm sorry, the ESA for your grandkids,
mhm,
type that into Google and say, what are the biggest questions retirees have about setting up an educational savings account for their grandkid? Enter.
mm,
It will tell you the questions so you know what the
mhm.
internet is or people on the internet are looking for, and that's how you can title your stuff. That's how you'll
Yep.
know what you can repurpose. But really, when it comes to a lot of those other metrics, and you and I might not see eye to eye on this, so just
Sure.
warning the audience here, I hate them. I hate them. I think they're ridiculous. They're vanity metrics most of the time.
Mhm,
They're not entirely complete, and I don't
mhm,
think they really prove efficacy in your marketing.
mm,
It really is frustrating to me
mhm,
when somebody says, well, my Roth conversion podcast got 50 downloads.
mm,
Okay. Did any of your clients come in and say that they wanted to do a Roth conversion?
mhm, mhm.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
that you're right, they did. Well, where did they get the idea?
yeah,
Well, I don't know. That's because you didn't ask. And so
yeah,
your data is different than I think a lot of other people's data, because I know data is important to your
yeah.
organization, but most advisors don't help complete the data.
Mhm,
They don't
mhm.
ask the questions. They don't ask their clients if they're listening to the show. They don't ask their clients if they even know they have a show, which, by the way, is good marketing. Well,
Yeah,
God, Callie, I know you do A.U.M every single solitary Monday. Won't you
right.
ever listen? Not all the time, but sometimes I do.
Yeah.
That's a marketing success. That's great brand
Yeah, right.
recognition for your organization.
Yeah. Yes. So one of the things that when we're pulling metrics, because I agree, reach can be tricky. So one of the things I like to look at is the engagement rate. So like how many
Mm,
people, because we also do advertising. So that skews the reach
yes.
tremendously. Obviously, the one that I'm paying for is going to have the
Yep.
most views. So what I like to do is see what was the rate of people who engaged with this content,
Mhm.
because that gives me a better idea if it's resonating with the audience. Um, and yes, I think it is hard. One of the biggest, I guess compliments, we'll say compliments, biggest compliments we get from clients is usually, oh, my my client mentioned my newsletter when they were in for their meeting. And I'm like, that is a huge success.
Oh my gosh.
Or, oh, we get a lot of calls after we send the newsletter out.
Mhm.
Yes, that's what we want. But you're right, it's hard to track unless you're thinking about it or oh yeah, I sent that out on Thursday and then I got a call.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that's very, very frustrating in the world of marketing is um, the number one reason why a client leaves their advisor is actually lack of communication or poor communication. And it's your
Mm.
job and my job to
Yeah,
be a best communicator. So
right.
what we're never going to know, Callie, if
Mhm.
the person was going to bounce because they're like,
Mhm.
oh, Callie, I was going to leave you because you never talked. Oh, and now you're talking, you never hear that. So
Right.
that client retention thing is a very, very difficult measurement. And when you're really looking at the atomic content method, you
Mhm.
just said something that is why we love you guys and love playing in the sandbox with you,
Yeah,
is because let's say there is a post that you consistently been posting on educational savings accounts and they keep
right.
doing well. That's when you boost it. Right.
Right.
With this rinse, lather, and repeat component, lather, rinse, and repeat component, where you're going to go ahead and add a little bit of fuel, right? We
Mhm.
call them rocket boosters and all that sort of stuff. But you're going to add a little bit of fuel, and that's when you can really start seeing
Yes.
not just some growth, but also you can start diving into those numbers more deeply because that's part of what you're paying for when you're doing an ad spend.
Right, exactly. That's one of the reasons I get excited about the metrics because I wanna know, okay, where should we be putting our time and energy and
Mhm.
money?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've gotten through most of the steps.
Yeah.
What have you found that advisors, get hung up on the most in this process?
Yeah. It's step four. It's
Okay.
interact with the goal. I mean, that's the thing.
Mm.
And I don't know if you remember this, and I don't expect that you do, but I was a practice management consultant for
Yeah.
many, many years. So I was a coach. I worked
Mhm.
with advisors and advisors' offices. And one of the things that you do as a professional coach or consultant is you always do a time survey, which is
Mm.
very punishing, mind you, but it's
Mhm.
good data, right? So I would do a time survey in every one of my clients' offices. For 2 weeks, they would check themselves in on this spreadsheet that I had.
Mm.
Actually, it wasn't mine, but of what they were doing
Right,
in
yeah.
15-minute increments, right?
Okay.
There's so much time wasted, Callie. It's like insane. So instead of, getting on your phone and, going
Mhm.
down a TikTok rabbit hole or watching CNBC, which is a huge waste of a time for financial advisors, it's
Yeah.
just mindless dribble that just
Mm.
reinforces your own opinions. And not just, I mean, it doesn't matter. Fox Business,
Yeah.
Reuters, Bloomberg, I don't care what it is.
Right.
Um, they need to spend 2 15-minute blocks a day
Mm.
when they're sitting down drinking their coffee in the morning. They open up LinkedIn, they interact with some stuff,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
They look at their posts, they say thank you,
Mm.
that sort of stuff. um, if you do that, you are going to be doing, well, 10 times the work of most advisors, but you
Mhm.
have to build that into your discipline. In fact, Kirk and I
Yeah.
just did a podcast a little while ago, basically on the atomic habits of marketing.
Right.
And that is one of the ones that is, so it's step number 4. That's where everybody falls down.
Yeah. Which platform should they be doing this on?
Well, and that's a wonderful question.
Yeah.
I really do believe that you can't just focus on one, but
Mm.
you should have a primary.
Mhm.
Um, you also have to think about the noise and
Mhm.
your niche.
Mhm.
LinkedIn can be unbelievably powerful if you were really freaking niched out.
Yeah.
But if you're not, you're just noise.
Right.
Well, actually, let me rephrase that. they're all that way.
Yes.
You have to be screaming into the ear holes of the ideal client.
Mhm.
I have some advisors who are just killing it on Instagram right now,
Mm,
especially reels. Oh my
mm,
God. Um, and then, there
yeah.
are Twitter alternatives, which are taking off pretty, like
Mm,
Blue Sky is blown up. They
mm,
had 15 million new subscribers the
mm.
week after the election.
I haven't even
Uh,
heard of Blue Sky?
yeah, it's basically what Twitter used to be.
Okay. I
Um,
mean, I know Threads, but
yep.
I haven't bitten the bullet on that one yet.
No, I tried it. I wasn't, but I'm sorry. I'm going to take your question one level deeper, if
Sure.
you don't mind, which
Yeah.
is, what do you like?
Yeah.
Right. So you can't hate social media ubiquitously, right? You actually
Mhm.
have to find one that you'll tolerate. Cause I
Yeah.
hear that in the sales process. Well, I hate social media.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
Well,
I
then
hear
you're
that too.
screwed. Sorry. Bye. See you later. Retire
Right.
now. Yeah.
And also, so you talked about like commenting because I think you have to do more than just
Yeah.
reacting, right?
Yeah.
You need to be putting comments out. And something that I run into is that's not something that you or me can do for our clients. That has to be the advisor
Yeah.
doing it. So I agree that they get stuck there because they're used to us doing things, which they should,
Mhm.
but there are limits.
Yeah. I wish,
Yeah,
in
right.
fact, early on in Proudmouth's career, when about a year and a half after Kirk and I started this, we actually had one of our team members get fingerprinted and
Mhm.
became an employee of
Mm.
the firm, so they could
Yeah,
like, share, and comment. And
right.
then the compliance department just shut them down, which is
Yeah,
unfortunate. We didn't do anything wrong. It's just we were doing more than they felt comfortable that we should
sure.
do, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah.
But you can say things that are very agnostic. In fact, if you
Mhm.
join our Pod Rocket Academy, we actually have a list of
Mm,
approved, I'm saying approved because you have to
mhm.
get them checked,
Sure.
but we've done 100,000 social media posts now. We
Mhm.
know what it goes through from a
Mm,
response perspective. And it
mhm.
really is as simple as, thanks, Callie. I'm glad you
Right.
enjoyed the show. That is
Yeah.
not a testimonial. That is not, any
Right.
promissory. And so, but I wish more advisors leaned into that.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned PodRocket, and
Mhm.
for our viewers, I always get to okay. You can scan this QR code.
Nice.
It will take you to Proudmouth homepage
Yeah,
where and PodRocket is on there, I
it,
presume.
it is. Everything's on there. In fact, I don't, there's lots of good stuff there. I'm not going to,
Yeah.
shamelessly shill at this point, but yeah, we have a couple of new things that are coming out that I'm really excited about. So
Oh, can you share? Give us a little sneak peek?
yeah. Well, the first thing is we launched. I got really burned out when I was a coach. I'm just being
Mm,
transparent.
mhm.
Um, and then I started missing it. And so Kirk and I had a
Mm.
meeting, and I was like, "Hey, I want to come out with a new product." And Kurt goes, "Come on, dude, seriously?" I was like, "No, really, I think we can do this." And I
Yeah.
said, I want it to be a coaching program. And then within minutes, Sonic Boom Coaching came up. We've got two
Mm,
levels. We got Sonic Boom Pro. So if you have a podcast already,
mm.
but you want to get better, which by the way, all of you should want to get better, because
Yeah.
there are just finer points that you, as an
Right.
advisor who aren't a professional podcaster like I am, don't know. So we
Mhm.
built a whole freaking coaching program around that. And we have another one that's just Sonic Boom, our basic level, which is if you want to get your show started. And so those
Mm.
actually in January, we're starting up new classes there. This class is full, that
Mhm.
we actually today that we're starting our first cohort, but I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
um,
Is it like group coaching? So there's
it
like
is.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say, I know you said if you're not a professional podcaster, this is great for you. I think even if you are, it's always nice to have a second pair of eyes.
I've
Or if
never
it's a group,
understood. Yeah.
5 different eyes.
Well, and that's the so important. Thank you for bringing that up,
Yeah.
because we're trying to build a community of like-minded advisors who want to be progressive in their marketing.
Mhm.
And just trying to do the same thing over, and it's not the 1900s anymore. You can't do the things back then. And if you only rely on referrals, you will not have a predictable stream of growth. You just
Mm.
won't. And here's the other
Mhm.
scary, terrifying thing I'm going to say right before Thanksgiving, in 2024. I'm just dating this just for
Mhm.
my own compliance. The market is going to go down at some point.
Mm. Mhm.
And all of you been riding this wave straight up for how long? Since '08, really?
Yeah,
Right? It's
yeah.
like, woohoo! Right? At some point, that's not going to happen. And if you don't have a good marketing team or a marketing plan in place, you don't have predictable growth.
Yeah, yeah. It's also a benefit for if you're going to sell.
Oh,
Okay, I've got this is what you do and this is what you can expect, and then you can make more when you sell your business.
that's right. I was just when we were at Future Proof, I hung out with David Grout Jr., who runs Succession Resource Group,
Mhm.
and I've known him forever. And he and I love to argue about all things valuation because there are some things we don't agree on.
Sure.
But Callie, that is one thing he wholeheartedly
Mm.
supports. In fact, they have something in their valuation system
Mm.
that asks if you have a predictable stream of marketing leads and a
Mm.
niche, and if you have, and you help with that, we help with that.
Right.
But a lot of advisors are still spending 1 to 2% of their gross revenue on
Yeah.
marketing, and they're wondering why they're not growing.
Yeah. Um, okay, so you break up the podcast, you make these shorter, content. Can you do the same thing? Well, what other longer forms would there be? I guess
Yeah, so
blog,
a blog,
video.
a book, videos,
Mm,
webinars, seminars, white papers, checklists. I mean, long form is just, I mean, it can even be pretty short. Like the example I used earlier, when you walk
mhm.
out of a client meeting, that's not going to be long, 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah,
But you can repurpose that 3 to 5 minute video across a bunch of platforms,
right.
across a bunch of different times, and then take that and turn it into a quote meme or an image-based thing or text-based post.
Mhm.
That's what this whole atomic content method's all about.
This is a little off topic, kind of, and I know that we're getting close on time, so, but how do you feel about gated content?
I hate it. Um, and here's why.
Mhm.
I can get it for free.
Mm,
Sorry.
mhm.
Now, I do agree with gated groups and gated communities
Okay.
wholeheartedly. Cheryl
Mm,
Hickerson, Females in Finance, is a perfect example of how successful a private, instead of gated, private community can
mm.
be. I mean, she's got what, 7,000, eight
Yeah.
thousand people in Females in
Well, that
Finance
does
now?
take I remember her mentioning it takes a good amount of time to
Yes.
get it running.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would wanna go that route personally.
Yeah, she's a saint for doing that, man, and really, she's built one hell of a community.
Yeah. So how do you recommend to your clients that they get email addresses? Or are you like, "Ah, you don't need them?"
Oh God, no, you need them.
Mhm.
And so we use that during just like the tofu, bofu, mofu funnel, right? So
Mhm.
part of the successive calls to action when you're creating your own content machine is
Mhm.
that you have to have something that's going to garner email addresses. What we're finding
Mhm.
where is working really well is checklists. People
Mm.
flip and love checklists. It's a very low barrier to entry, not a high level of work for the advisor to build. That can be very
Mhm.
branded, especially niche focused. And then you basically say at the end of your content, hey, we're giving away this fantastic, 10 mistakes that you make in your IRA.
Mhm.
All you have to do is go ahead and click here. And here's the other thing that maybe you and I might not see eye to eye on this either, but only it's the first name and email address.
I do agree with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, sister.
User experience. But I will
Yeah.
say, Matt, that is gated content, what you just described.
Okay. So, but I would consider that more as a lead magnet than gated content.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm using the interchangeably.
Okay.
To me, I'm like, okay, that's a piece of content that we're going to gate.
So
It's
I
my lead
agree with that.
magnet. Okay.
Um, I may be going more toward the video game sort of
Mm,
gated stuff where people refuse to share most of their information because they think it's their secret sauce. That's what I
right.
actually don't agree with. But you totally, so well done leading me down this path, sister. I appreciate you. But yes, that is that. So if that's your definition of gated content, which is what I should have asked you, then yes, I wholeheartedly support that.
Great, then we're in agreement.
Yay!
Okay, so anything else that advisors should know about atomicizing? Did I say it right?
Atomizing.
Atomizing.
Yeah.
Atomizing their content before we go.
It's not difficult. AI can be your friend. It can get you about 50 to 75% there. You
Mhm.
will need to go ahead. So take your post, take your video, take the transcript, throw it into whatever you want to. I use GPT-4. But if you do that and then be very specific with the prompt, create 10 Facebook posts targeting X thing with this problem and have it be 100 words or less, enter. And it will literally do that for you. You cut and paste that into a Word document or a Google Doc, tweak it, make sure it's on brand from your marketing
Right.
people, and then go ahead and post.
Yeah. And I will say, I have found with ChatGPT, sometimes the thread, you start a thread when you're in ChatGPT, and sometimes it just goes, like, loses its brain. I don't know. It goes squirrely on me, and it just will not give me quality responses. If that happens, just start a new thread.
Yeah. They call
That's
that
what I found.
hallucinating. And so, yes, it does hallucinate. And yeah, I will just restart. See, I take hallucinations personally because I believe it's more of my issue than it's
Oh,
AI
sure.
issue,
Yeah.
because I'm not asking it the right questions and I'm expecting it to do something I haven't been clear on. Much like
Mm.
marriage, by the way, but you don't need to go there. So
I see. I
yeah,
see. And see, I don't think it's me.
that's very telling. That's very telling, Steve.
Precisely. Awesome. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Matt. And we always love having you on A.U.M. So much
Thanks for
fun.
having me.
Absolutely. Turned me off and not Matt. On that note, find out how your marketing is doing, take our short survey, and find out how you score. What things you are doing, what things you could be doing. We've got the answers. And then join us next Monday. We'll be defining your ideal client with Lori from Wealth Hawk. This is a reschedule because she lost her voice when we had this scheduled. And then, of course, I lost my voice 2 weeks ago. And hopefully by next Monday, we will both have our voices and can talk with you about how to further